So, here we are today. Today is performance day, and this is stuff that you have to learn on your private pilot when you're getting your private pilot's license. And when I was doing the private pilot thing, when I was a kid, I was like, why do I have to know performance? Because everywhere I'm going to go is going to be kind of flat. I never really planned on flying over any big terrain, because I was like, these mountains are intimidating, and I was like, why would I do that? But the whole idea behind performance as a bee flying, is that outside?
Yeah,
or inside?
it's inside.
Is that inside?
We have a stowaway.
Oh, okay. Bastard.
Ew, did you get him?
No. Okay, we got a bee flying around here.
I think.
Are you allergic to bees?
No.
Oh, neither am I. So okay.
I just don't
But
like
I
them.
don't. It looked like a weird, not like a big regular
Yeah,
bee.
it wasn't. It was some
like a
fly
stinger bee, like
thing,
more of a fly bee. So
Yeah,
some
anyway.
kind of weird mountain.
Mountain
fly.
hybrid.
That brings up a good question. Do we get any extra lift because of that? I don't know.
No, but we should add him to our weight and balance.
We certainly do. So yeah, if he's sitting on the book, then he weighs one thing. If he's flying, that's always been the question. If a bird flies in a plane, do you add the weight of the bird?
Oh, I never thought
I don't know. Yeah, no, it's a weird question that someone asked.
That's a weird question.
It was just too much for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so the whole thing with performance is, we're up at this airport. What's the length of this runway? It's
I think it's
fairly short.
2100?
Yeah, and it's
2000.
called 2000.
2000,
Skycomish State. And for those that are interested in finding it, it's the identifier is Sierra 88, S88, if you look that up on the internet. And we're up in Skycomish, Washington, so we're buried, and we're down here, 2,000-foot grass strip. And the whole idea is, when you're operating out of a place like this, there's trees all the way around us. And so you need to calculate, is the airplane capable of loading it up with people and fuel and going? And if it is people and fuel, how many people, how many fuel? And so that's just kind of get into the weight and balance thing a little bit. We'll do the weight part more than the balance part, but the weight has to do with how much stuff you can put in the airplane, right? And in this case, this airplane weighs 2,100 pounds, and its max gross weight, I think, which means maximum weight to take off, is 3,100 pounds. So we have 1,000 pounds to play with, right? So we have the empty weight of the airplane, 2,100 pounds, and then we add the weight of the fuel. And so in this case, let's say we'll just call it an even 500.
Yeah.
It's probably less than that, but just for this the video, so it has some semblance of easy math. So 2,100 pound empty, 500, and then you have hand-on here. And what they allow you to do is they just give you an average weight, and an average adult weight is 180 pounds. So you'd add that. If you're going out of a strip like this, though, I would actually find out the weight of each person, because it will be so critical that you really want to have it down, because you cannot take off over gross weight. You can't take off in this airplane over 3,100 pounds, because that makes all the performance charts that you have to read, that gives you the data, basically, can you make it or can you not? So,
which is also going to affect your we could take off at max gross weight of 3,100, but on a 2,000-foot strip, grass, probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
So you got to look at all your performance charts for that beforehand. And like you were saying, okay, fly out of Boeing Field all the time. Cool, that's fun. But you want to come back over here and you want to go camping or something, or maybe you don't.
Right. I don't want to.
I would. But you got to calculate all that. It's fun. It'd be cool. You land in here, but then you got to add in, okay, how much camping gear? What's the weight?
Right.
What's my dinner? All that. So everything you're bringing, your stove, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So so the question is you could probably land in a lot of places.
More importantly, can you take off?
Yeah, can you take off? Exactly. So.
And another thing to calculate for, if you're thinking about all of that, would be on that on your takeoff, your density altitude.
Right, exactly.
Because that's going to make a massive difference.
What density altitude refers to? We're right now. What are we? We're 1,000
feet.
This airport's 1,000 feet,
I believe,
right?
Yeah. I always think of it like when it's hotter out, the molecules aren't as close together, so there's less of them for that engine to ingest, and then less for that engine can only get so many molecules, which is what it uses to produce more power. So when there's less molecules for it to do, it has less power.
Exactly. And so what molecules are just air molecules. The colder it is, the more there are. The hotter it is, the hotter there is, the less there are. So air molecules, those things affect engine performance.
Yeah.
The propeller, what it's biting, the air.
Out of the air,
It's funny.
Air.
It's basically there's a lot of air or not as much air. It's kind of a way, I guess you could say it.
Yeah. So when the air's thinner, there's less for it to.
Yeah. So the hotter it gets,
create.
the less bite the prop gets, the less performance the engine has, and the less the air molecules going over the wing that give you the coveted lift that you want so much going out of a place like this, because we do have trees on both ends of the strip. You'll see it when we take off.
So it would be a different thing to think about coming into this airport in the middle of winter as opposed to the middle of summer.
Exactly. Yeah. And today is pretty much a standard day. I'd say it's probably
outside air temp says it's 20.
20 degrees. 20 degrees? Is that what it says? Well, look at that fancy airplane for it. Okay, yeah.
So it's above standard.
My
the standard
172,
is.
I have to lick my fingertip and put it out the window to see what the temp is. But anyhow, here's just real quick. It's a sample graph of what it is. This is a sample. This airplane weighs 2,100 pounds, but this is just a sample, right? You can see it up top. But here's 2,100 pounds. You see where you add the fuel. There's 522 pounds they're adding for that. Then you can see here, pilot and front passenger. That's us. 340 pounds. Remember I said it was 180 for each. Anyhow, what we're looking at here is you got the weight of the fuel. And then you can see for the passenger weight, they're just using 340. So, normally the 180, that'd be 360 if we just use that weight. But obviously they're using a weight,
they
the guy made 180 and the girl weighs whatever, right? So, and then you have the passengers. We don't have any passengers today, but you can see they get the total weight down here. And they're, in their example, they're maxing out at 3,100 pounds, I think is what they're just showing. But you can see, this is what you do, this is what you use to figure out what the weight is of the airplane. So then once you have the weight, we go look for the performance charts. What this airplane has, it has two different performance charts. One's at 2,700 pounds and the other one is at 3,100 pounds. And I'd say today, with our weight, 2,100 pounds, 500 pounds of fuel, and us, we're basically 2,700 pounds. So we can go ahead and use that graph. Okay, so you can see here we have, make sure 31. I can see that. So right here we have the short field takeoff distance of 3,100 pounds. Then you go over here, short field takeoff distance of 2,700 pounds. So anyhow, look at this real quick. So, so SL, what's that mean? That means sea level. Then right here, 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, 3,000 feet, right? We're at 1,000 feet. So we're going to use this one right here. And Hannah, with her fancy airplane, said that it's 20 degrees Celsius outside, which is around 72, I don't know, something like that, whatever it converts to. So we're 1,000 feet. We come over to where it says 20. You can see there's 0, 10, 20. So then we'll look down here, and the ground roll, it's going to take us 665 feet to get airborne, and then to clear a 50-foot obstacle, we need 1,235 feet. Well, this airport is 2,000 feet, so that 50-foot obstacle, we've got 100-foot trees at the end, but there's a little thing, and you'll see it when we take off. We kind of make a little turn, and you can shoot right through it. But this airplane's got all sorts of performance, and it's not a hot day. Again, look at when it's hot. Look what happens to the performance. It starts going to 14, 10. I think in a 40-degree day, I wouldn't go out of here when it's 40. No. I mean, that's hot.
That is hot.
That is really hot. And this is a brand new airplane test pilot performance number, not a weekend warrior. You just got your license, man. Yeah. You know what I'm saying. When you're a newbie.
Well, and then you hear at the bottom, we're going to talk about it talks about adding the distances there too.
Yeah,
because we're not on a paved. Up here, it'll talk about paved level drive runway.
Exactly.
And down here.
Yeah, and down what Hannah's saying is right down here. You can see it. It says for operation on dry grass runway, increase the takeoff distance 15%. And then they have things in here for tailwinds. You can decrease distances for headwinds and stuff. But I typically don't calculate headwinds into my takeoff data when I'm flying these airplanes. In the 777 we do, but even then I'm still kind of thinking that if that wind, sometimes it's blowing and then halfway down the runway it'll stop blowing.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've had that happen before. Not that it, in any situation that put me in any danger, but when you're starting to fly big airplanes and they're using the wind, that to me is not something that I'm super comfortable with. So I usually don't use the additive when I'm in the 777 stuff. What's interesting about temperature, how critical these become. You're learning this as a student pilot, but if you're going into the airlines, you're going to start flying bigger airplanes. These temperatures right down here, see the 0, 10, 20 in a Boeing airplane, you'll have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all those different temperatures. And I used to fly 747s out of Africa where if it got 1 degree hotter, we could not take off. And that's how critical.
For comfort.
That's how critical it was. Yeah, so that's why you're learning these charts, to keep yourself out of trouble here. And then also if you're transitioning and going to become, flying bigger aircraft and stuff like that. But this is what keeps you out of trouble here. Now, because we're basically down in a canyon, we have a valley that we can fly out of, right, comfortably. But let's say that there's just this terrain and you'll see it going out of here. So you can see down here, the maximum rate of climb, and so what this is talking about, with 3,100 pounds, we're only 2,700 right now. But you can see at sea level, at 80 knots, at 20 degrees, we can climb at 900 feet a minute. But look what happens when we start going up to 4,000 feet. It goes, see, 4,000, it goes down to 700, and 8,000, it goes down to 495. That's how many feet you'll gain in a minute. So again, when you're looking at your chart and plotting your performance out, if you have terrain like a mountain, that's something that you're going to have to consider.
Right cross, right.
Is the rate of climb, how fast this airplane will climb. The next chart, there's all sorts of stuff, and this is going to be stuff that the examiner are probably going to have you fill out on your written. Did you do it on your written? Have a sample problem like that?
I think
I
so.
did, yeah. Even though that was like 100 years ago when I did it.
I remember, but I do remember from the written exam having questions like that, and that you definitely had to fill out.
The written, yeah, exactly.
And even for they give you some kind of a practical one for your
right, yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, this is what you're going to start dealing with. This one's called the time, fuel, and distance. So, how much time it's going to take you, how much fuel it's going to take you, and the distance. So, let's say today we're going to climb up to 6,000 feet, and from sea level, it says it'll take us 8 minutes to get to 6,000 feet. It'll take 11 miles. So again, you're looking at, okay, we took off from this airport. We have this hill, this mountain at 5,000 feet. We need to climb over. Can you do it? So that's what these charts are all about. And then we have the normal climb charts. You can see here, again, this is based on the maximum weight, and it's a normal climb. But yeah, so you can see there's all these different charts in here that give you how much time it's going to take you, how many minutes it's going to take you, and what kind of ground you're going to cover.
And again, important to read all the little notes that they have in there
exactly.
too. Especially for every day, of course, like when it's important on an exam.
You notice that Hannah always catches all the little notes, and I just keep blowing
because they're
going
to throw that stuff at you on the written exam, and they'll give you an answer that was for the paved dry runway. That's correct. So you just look at this and you'll think, oh, that's my number, and you'll see the number and think that's what it is.
That's an excellent point because they will do that on a test.
They will do that.
They'll go, what's it going to be? And you go, oh, 4,000 feet.
They said,
580.
And you're like, oh, that's right. I had that there. Yeah.
Boom.
But actually, they said on
slow down, take a breath.
A grass strip. So then you got to come down here and add that,
add
whatever it is.
Add all the bits.
It's important to read the notes for the test and for real life.
Yeah, exactly. So, but again, this is just general today of kind of what you're looking at. So, and then here's cruise performance of, we're going to probably climb up to, 5,500, maybe 4,500, 65. We'll see going out of here. Let's take a look at this real quick, and we'll go back to this takeoff chart. And short field takeoff, so we're at 1,000 feet, we're 20 degrees C, 655, but remember we have to add the 15%, so 700 and some odd feet, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're looking at for that, and that's how you read these charts. So anyhow, we're going to taxi down, and we're going to blow out of this joint. So you can see going out of here, here's Sky Comish right here, and look at all this terrain around us, 6,100 feet, 5,800 feet. You can see there's the valley, Okay, we're out of here.
All right, ready?
Yep.
Trims, good, flaps.
Looking good.
Okay.
All right, so we're doing a short field takeoff out of here.
That was exciting.
That's very exciting. So you can see that's what a short field takeoff with obstacles looks like.
Terrain.
We can inhibit that for a moment.
So yeah, you can see in front of us, look at all this terrain around us. If we had to outclimb that, could we just go in a straight line and outclimb that thing? Probably not.
Not that.
Yeah,
no, I don't
think so. Again, it's part of looking at the topography of an airport of where you're flying out of. And if we were down in a valley, we'd have to circle around the valley to be able to get out of this area. And that, again, is something in your performance planning and your flight planning is because they want to see how much fuel, if you're planning across country, how much fuel you're going to burn, because you need to know what your landing distance or your landing weight is at where you're going. Part of the requirement as pilot and command is that you're familiar with everything before you go. Weather, and the big one, performance, right? It makes sense, because what if you see how much runway we use there? You saw what the graph said. You saw what that's a 2,000 foot long strip, and you saw what it looks like, and we're right up against the edge.
We were. I mean, it was. Yeah. I think you'll probably see it in my face when we watch that video of me like, and then as soon as we're like good and we're over the trees, I was like, but yeah, we were right up at that.
But it is. That's right on the edge.
That was fine. That was comfortable, but I wouldn't want to do anything more aggressive than that.
Yeah, exactly.
Terrain.
There, inhibit. All right, she'll stop yelling at us now.
Yeah, that's cool. So anyhow, you can see going out of here with this terrain around the airplane, you can see it on the chart, and you're going to have to calculate. You want to just calculate, like in this case, to 6,200 feet, because that would put the landing gear right on the top of the tree, wouldn't it? You want to clear that with room to spare, and because when you start flying around mountainous terrain, you get a lot of wind.
All that wind coming off of
yeah,
that
you get a lot of wind and rotors, and those things will grab the airplane and just slam the airplane around.
I do believe that is a test question. What is it's something to what's the worst kind of wind? And the answer is the rotor, the rotor wind.
Yep, I saw it.
Yeah,
it's right there.
He's there.
I'll get it. Yeah, it is.
Well, and another test question I believe is what side of the mountain is the more
the
more dangerous side, and it's that I guess leeward side, is that what it's called?
Yeah, exactly, leeward. Yeah, the back side of it.
Yeah, the back side of it, basically.
Because the front side of it, you'll get lift.
Yeah. You can think of it, it's like water, is how I always looked at it. That, on that front side where the wind's coming up that mountain, it's going to lift you up like water would have to come up it. And on that other side, the air is going down, so it's going to push you down.
Exactly, yeah. It's I mean, you got a rock and a river.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
river's going this way, it hits the rock, it climbs up. So you can see it goes up. Well, if that's air, you're going to get lift. You're still going to get a lot of turbulence out of it. But on the back side of that rock, the water just spins behind it. That's the turbulent.
Yeah.
They call it, I don't know, turbulated air or whatever their word is for it there. But
dangerous air.
Yeah.
And they say to always approach it at like a 45, right? When you're coming up on the mountains, that gives you that out of if you are experiencing a big downdraft and you're not going to be able to outclimb that mountain.
It's exactly what it is.
You only have to make I guess a 90-degree turn.
Yeah, exactly, versus a 180 degree.
So
I hope you understand what she said is, when you're hitting terrain like right in front of us, there's this hill. Well, it runs this way. So if you're going to approach that terrain and go over the top of it, we're at about a 45-degree angle to it because it runs like this. And if we decided to go over it, which I don't think we will because we don't have the climb performance right now. You can look out the window and you can just tell that
we're not going to make
that. Yeah. So our option is going to be go down the valley more. But when you're approaching something like that, never approach a hill straight on, because if it starts getting real bad, you got to do a 180. If you approach it at a 45-degree angle, you only have to do a 90-degree turn to get away from it. So excellent advice. But you can see it's starting to open up down here. This is the last bit of hills, but some definitely gnarly rock, and that's the whole deal about performance. Again, it's when I was a kid, I just thought, wow, man, I'm never going to go into those hills. Well, look where I am today in these hills.
Well, it's fun if you do it safe. Yeah, it's fun. It's more exciting. It's nice to land on.
It is
a 10,000-foot strip, but it's relatively easy, and it's fun to and there's cool places to see that you can't get to any other way, or it takes you hours and hours of driving. And
So, but one thing interesting. Let's say that it said 1,500 or 2,000. It's a 2,000-foot long strip. What if it said 2,000 feet to clear a 50-foot obstacle? You'd think, okay, well, it says we can do it. No, don't do that. Do not do that.
Well, like you said, those numbers are based off of a test pilot doing everything to the max and a brand new airplane.
Exactly.
Which is not an old airplane, but it's not brand new.
Exactly.
And we are not test pilots.
Right. Exactly. So there's just.
So you just don't want to.
Yeah, but you saw how it said 1,500 feet, then add the 15% for the dry grass and all that, and you could see from that takeoff today that was our limit. Any heavier And, you know, would you make it? Yeah, maybe. You know, I think so. Another 100 pounds would have really made it challenging, you know. So, anyhow, that's pretty much it for now as far as that. The only other thing performance-wise is we're heading back to Boeing Field in Seattle, and so what do we need to have? You know, what's the last chart that we need to look at? I shall show you.
Meanwhile, enjoy the scenery outside.
Yeah, totally.
As it is super pretty out.
Oh, there's one other chart I wanted to show you here, and this is kind of interesting. So,
oh, that's a good chart.
Yeah. When we're flying around, and you're flying around hostile terrain,
you may think we're looking out at the pretty scenery, but we're actually looking at where we would land if we had to go right now.
It's exactly what it is. I mean, I'll glance down at the cool mountaintop and the ridge, go, wow, I wish I owned that, because I'd put a house and a runway on the top of that, and you know, and that sort of thing. But that's just for like a nanosecond, like boom, I'm looking at it, cool. But pretty much the majority of the time when you're up here flying around is, I'm looking at that valley, I'm looking at that valley. I know what is at the end of these valleys. But the question is you want to leave yourself enough room when you're flying through hostile terrain like this, that if you do have an engine failure, that you can, we don't want to land in these mountains, right? The outcome is probably not good. Yeah, there's logging roads down there, but the logging roads are on the edge of a hill, so the hill's hill and a road, so probably going to catch a wingtip, and it's not going to be pretty. Yeah, they're not straight. They're just all curvy, you know. So with this chart right here, looking at this, look at what Mr. Cessna gave you, maximum glide speed. And this is what this chart means is if the engine quits, how far will the airplane glide? So let's say we were at 8,000 feet right here, 8,000 feet. This airplane will glide to about 11.5 miles, right? Well, guess what gets thrown out the window if you take off over the max gross? Remember, this airplane's 3,100 pounds. What happens if you go flying where it's higher than, the gross weight's higher than 3,100 pounds? Yeah, this chart's not accurate anymore, is it? You know. Now look at this one down here, 6,000. We're at 4,500, so 6,000 feet you can glide. That's, you know, 8, 9, 10, yeah, about 8.5 miles. And at 4,000 feet you can glide about 6 miles. So again, from the end of these ridges where we're flying, we have enough to get us out of the valley and into an open area, and that's key when you're flying in areas like this. Yeah. You just don't want to get caught where you're so low over terrain that you don't have, you know, down here there's plenty of areas to land down here, and there's a lot of civilization. So if you're going to have engine problems, you want to be near a road that the fire department can have access to. You know, you're up in the mountains and you're search and rescue helicopter time, and man, if the weather's bad, you know, I mean, guys have sat up here for days waiting for someone to come pluck them out of there. And if you're injured, so that's why you need to take this chart into consideration. The other thing too, a lot of things happens, you know, over the history of time, because airplanes, you know, it's people flying airplanes, and they're like, well, hey, you know, I'm in the middle of nowhere, I don't see any FAA guys around me, so I'm just going to take, you know, like this airplane, I'm going to put 8 people in it, and all their golf clubs and all their crap for the weekend and go fly. Yeah, I forget that singer's name, Alea or something. What was her name? It was down in the Bahamas. But anyhow,
I know yeah.
Yeah, she was a famous singer down in the Bahamas, and they just loaded the airplane full of people, full of camera gear. I think she was down there doing a shoot. The airplane was overgrossed, and it took off and had a problem. It's you know, with 2 engines, all that performance is predicated on having both engines run. And I think one of the engines quit. The thing just augered right in. The other factors. So yeah, all the charts become, you know, ineffective. But when you overload an airplane, you're also stressing it, because these things are designed to take so much stress. They have to meet certain requirements that the FAA has defined. And when you start overloading the airplane, you start stressing the airplane out, and it just, you know, it starts affecting the wing spars. There's just a bunch of nasty stuff that can happen. So.
Well, and on a, you know, of course you don't want to overload it and then take off and die, but also on a hopefully less, you know, horrible outcome. If you do that, let's say you crash at the end of the runway and like, okay, everybody lived, and boy, that was bad. The FAA starts investigating. They see that you were well over.
You're probably going to wish that you hadn't lived. Yeah. You know, because it's going to be a mess, and they're going to probably take your license from you. You know, if you start doing stuff like that. There's guys that have done it. You know, there's exemptions in Alaska, but those are for commercial operators, I think. But I just don't mess around with it. I mean, I just don't overload the airplane. And again, even because the airplane can carry the weight, is the performance good enough? Again, it's not just have an airplane. We have 4 seats. We can fill it full of people. There's area in the back for bags. We can cram stuff in there. The airplane carries 87 gallons of fuel, so man, we'll just fill the tanks up because gas is cheaper here than where I'm going in this other place. You got to kind of start getting that mindset out because that mindset will kill you, you know.
Yeah. There's just so many factors.
It is, and there's been so many. I mean, yeah, we could do a whole dissertation on things that have happened to people that have, you know, during flights where they're flying at overgross weight, and it's just not a smart thing to do. So, anyhow, so you've seen the glide thing. You've heard the doom and gloom, and are telling you not to overload an airplane because that's not wise. So finally, what we will show you, the last but not least, is the short field landing distance. So a short field landing distance at 2,950 pounds. We're going to be probably more like about 2,600 pounds, something like that. So it's at sea level. We're going Boeing Field sea level. It's a little, just say it's 20 degrees Celsius down there. 600 feet once we touch down, but to clear a 50-foot obstacle, which there are none, is 1,355 feet. The airport elevation, or the field elevation down here, the runway length is, I think, like 10,000 feet. So
yeah, if they put us on the big one.
Exactly. So yeah. So that's really it. So I will climb up and we will enjoy the scenery.
Yeah,
going back in the Boeing
ATIS
field.
Here
Yeah.
Zulu 2153, Zulu winds 290 at 8, visibility 10, sky clear, temperature 19 or 2.6, altimeter 3008.
So here's something kind of interesting. It's not really performance related, but it's how to get back into Boeing field. So when they have a north flow, meaning that they're taking off and landing to the north, they have a page called North Arrivals. And so we're coming in from over in this direction. We're east of the airport. So what we're going to do is fly over this place called Bellevue, call the tower at Bellevue, and then you can see they have this kind of guidance. A lot of airports are starting to come up with stuff like this, and it's not always easy to find. So they have these different procedures when you come in, and the reason behind these little procedures, not every airport has it. Boeing has them because above it, over here on the hill, there's a big airport, and you have all these jets going right over the top of the airport here. And again, they're just separating, kind of gets back to that other video that we shot about airspace. They just don't want you to be near those big jets, and so that's why they've created these ways. One is for noise-sensitive areas on the ground, and the other is a way to keep you away from the big jets. So yeah, we're going to call them up, and the one that we're doing here today, it's called the Bellevue Arrival, and they have information of what you need to do, how to do it. Call the tower, fly towards I-90, blah, blah. You'll see what we do coming up here. But yeah, coming in at airports like this, I'm starting to see these show up more and more.
Boeing Tower, Cessna 94901 Delta.
Cessna 94901 Delta, Boeing Tower, Bellevue Arrival approved. Traffic on Mount Big Tom, Bellevue departure, Cessna. Traffic mid-Mercer Island, should be westbound Cessna 1200.
Maybe that we'll be looking for them, Bellevue Arrival 9491 Delta.
So I guess hit that and then go.
Yeah, I think here, and then you kind of enter like a right downwind for the,
So anyhow, we're doing the Bellevue Arrival. Hannah just made the call back there. They cleared us inbound for this Bellevue Arrival thing, and so yeah, we're just basically fly forward, hit the bridge that's underneath us, and then kind of shoot that way, and that puts us in the traffic pattern for Boeing. So kind of simple stuff, but you know, when you're just starting out, man, it seems like overload. You know, it just is, but it all comes together.
It's scary because you've got SeaTac and you don't want to go anywhere near
Your crosswind.
I got somebody 200 below me right here that he didn't call out, but
yeah, it shows an airplane over
I see him.
kilo.
Yeah, he's like, I think he's the one transitioning.
But yeah, what an extreme going from a mountainous airport to this.
Cessna 91 Delta, runway 32 right, clear line.
Land 32 right, 9491 Delta.
That's not a question. Sportsman, south.
Oop.
Julio.
A little wiggle there, but otherwise pretty good.
So anyhow, so that's it for this flight is performance. You know, not a super lengthy thing because we didn't want to get into the detail of the math. We just wanted to show you that there are performance. Performance is a big part of flying, you know, and and without knowing the performance of the airplane and just thinking that you can put 4 people in it, fill the tanks, and go. That's how you're going to run into trouble. So I think that's it for today.
And a legal thing that, as PIC, you're responsible for every, like you said earlier, every aspect of the flight and knowing all your runway length.
Like Anna said, you're responsible as the pilot in command of knowing all that stuff. So yeah, that's it for today. We'll until the next time. We'll see you later. Bye.